Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Benu by Flux Forward. Today, I'm joined by Hee Baek, founder of OW Care, and she's working on a very human problem: how people find the right care when the system is complex, fragmented, or hard to navigate. And maybe this is the main reason I was interested in inviting her to join us, because at Flux Forward, we are trying to do something in a different way, how to navigate in a complex, fragmented system as internationals in the Netherlands. So, uh, hi, me, and I want to ask
Hello.
you to introduce yourselves from your point of view, and then we can just start our conversation today.
Yes, it sounds good, Ben. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Hee. I'm a founder of OW Care. So that is Our Y Care. And I am building a care navigation to help people connect to the right care at the right time. I'm starting in The Hague, where I am located currently. I've moved to the Netherlands about 11 years ago now, almost 11 years ago. Finding myself, I will definitely say, a home here. But I have grown up across 5 different countries in the last 30 something years of my life. So I definitely consider myself a global citizen, but I'm happy to be here today to share a bit of my story and experiences and how I navigated also the system, as you said.
That's
So happy to be
great.
here.
And yeah, let's start with your own story. What first made access to care feel personal for you, and what was the story behind the OW Care? Because you already told me that you had kind of same experience, not just as a person who is trying to build something, but in another aspect as well.
Yeah, so I decided to build OW Care because I've been a long-term patient myself. So every time I move a city and different country, I will try to get myself acquainted with different healthcare system, but also who's who in my area, who covers what, and who can I see the earliest. So it's always been of an interesting point of question for me to target, and that gave me quite the inspiration. And also, I have professionally found myself in a healthcare ecosystem too, not just traditionally in the hospital settings, but I'm talking more about in academia, but also pharmaceutical clinical trials and other NGOs and community group work as well. And over the years, I realized that, wow, healthcare is actually a lot broader than what we normally say. And it certainly isn't just the clinical work. It is also a lot more about community and the social groups that we also gain a lot of support from. So I wanted to build care navigation to show not just the private providers, independent private providers in the local area first, but also community groups where something like NGO free body services, but also other parts of the community groups where you can try to also gain a sense of belonging in that sense. So that's what I focus on right now in building.
Yeah, meaning how I understand what you are trying to build is not just focusing on official formal way of uh, let's say care system. Also,
Mhm.
you started to think how you can implement the community aspect of this support system. What you think, as a person who already lived in 5 countries, as you mentioned, and for past 11 years, you have been living in the Netherlands. What do you think about community and being part of communities and having access to this kind of support system could be really important for internationals while they are moving to a new country, specifically for those who are experiencing kind of totally different culture or context, such as the non-EU people moving to the Netherlands.
Yeah, in the end, I think it's all about finding yourself a group of a community where where you not just to share the hobby or interest for certain activity that can be just a sports group, right? But also by growing yourself a system of support. I think that's incredibly important. Whether you're non-EU or EU, I think that that's something we all share uh, as a really human being, that we want to have a different multiple system of support in that sense. And I call that actually emotional anchors. We don't have just one need or desire for just one hobby group. I think it really requires a different number of sets of things for us to feel more at ease, feels like we're challenged in the right way, or that we are peer supported, and that we want to keep yeah landing that roots in a place that we find ourselves. And as an international, I think probably one thing that I can highlight is that you start to see the differences across different cultures and different places you live in. And I'm sure you also have experienced that same. And it's more about finding that group quickly, but also you understand that you can evolve out of one community too. So it's in that motivation to keep finding yourself your place wherever you go. I think that is important for the internationals.
And that's the point, when someone moves to a new country,
Mm,
it seems it's usually difficult to find these kind of informal support systems or communities.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, back to your experience, how you think internationals in a new country can find these informal layers of this new country or this new society, because usually they are putting themselves in kind of silos
Yeah.
with no real interactions with others, finding some people who are similar to them, and then after many years they feel kind of being alone, and um it affects on their mental health, as you know. And
Mm.
this is one of the main points I see you are trying to solve by OW Care.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the main points that we want to address is that we would like to be the central point of the community, different initiatives, different groups happening, real time. That's where we would like to be the connector of the, like you said, the invisible, become the invisible layer for the people to easily find what it is they want. Um, so the one of the things that I think is important is actually people willing to try what's also out there. We do have a lot of different groups and initiatives and different cultural groups, as well as different activity level groups. But also gaining that clarity for oneself, it is as in what is that you actually are looking for is probably also just as important than as much as having a lot of resources around you. So it is more about also growing that clarity and awareness.
So let's focus more on this era. I mean, I'm talking about the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And as we talked, maybe sometimes it's not about which doctor, for example, or GP, but also it's about where can I feel supported and experiencing kind of sense of belonging.
Mm.
How you are addressing uh, this specific, let's say, issue via the platform you are developing. And maybe it's a good idea right now, a little bit more explain what OW Care is exactly and
Mm.
which specific, because in I think you mentioned about connector, and it seems you are trying to act as a connector within the OW chair. This is my understanding, definitely. But maybe it's a good idea also explaining more how you are addressing the sense of belonging and finding those support systems via OW care.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good point. So the first part about the GP, it's actually by zip code. So depends on where you live. You are already assigned. Will have to find a GP in that zip code area. So it's not like you can find someone on the other side of the city completely. Um, as for the communities, I think it's important to start with the directory that we have, because there are a lot of official directories that are just spread out across the different organizations and initiatives. So now what I'm trying to do is actually work with one of the organizations who can actually support also feeding that directory and help people, for example, older people, also to find what kind of a community resources are available. But what I do think that OW care really makes a difference is that people describe what it is they're looking for, but we will try to learn and build that guidance as to help that to help it and then clarify that question also for themselves what it is they're looking for, because indeed we do have different levels and all sorts of different types of community level. It can be just as much as something like, oh, if you're a professional looking for more sense of belonging through external woman initiative, business initiative, versus a lady who just came out of a long-term sick leave, now trying to integrate, but slowly building that level of the confidence, but also skill set in other things, then she might be looking for another opportunity where she can do more upskilling with the NGO through volunteering. So these are rather different type of sense of belonging that someone might be looking for. So it'll be in really trying to understand how people describe their situation and learn the nuances, learn what it is important for that person in terms of care, because I do consider this a community level of resources an incredibly important part of taking care of oneself. So that's something that I would really like to focus on and grow further with. So that's why, in a sense, it is different than any other mental health platforms that we have currently, any other uh, more formal, like the Zorgwijzer or the Zorgkaart that we have, more traditionally focused on clinical care. So we separate ourselves in that sense.
I really like the phrase you mentioned, emotional anchors.
Mm.
Maybe it's a good idea. You are sharing some examples of those emotional anchors for someone who has just arrived in the Netherlands, because it seems for me, within the OW care, you are not just trying to help people find the formal care, but also you are trying to help them to find these kind of emotional or community anchors as well.
Yeah, you're correct as to we would like to really combine both of categories of care. So for one is, as I said before, the private providers, something like a coach and psychologist, psychotherapist, and also different sorts of somatic care practitioners. But also on the other side, of course, community as for the sense of greater emotional anchor. For example, there are a lot of gardening communities also here that is quite popular in the Netherlands, and which I really appreciate about Dutch culture in that sense. Is really the small bouts of the community gardens throughout different city and provinces. And it is definitely not for old people only. So I definitely recommend a lot of young people also to check it out. And it and also something like this community that I actually initiated, because I simply couldn't find the right community also for myself, because I'm a huge fan of horseback riding. So I consider myself an equestrian. And as an international, I also wanted to grow my own body in that sense for horseback riders. And I couldn't find that particular group. And I tried the different private or more open horseback riding groups for trail ride here around the country. And every time you go, then you'll meet a different group of people. So, but then I thought, I would really like a group of friends or a buddy that I can ride with. So then I was like, why not? Let's start something.
Yeah,
So I
interesting.
started it. Yeah, I started in Leiden, 2022, and just through word of mouth. I mean, I posted on Facebook, but initial interest just was quite limited. But it started out with the four ladies, and then word of mouth it grew, and suddenly in a couple of months it grew to 30 plus members. And now it's more stabilized in that number because we don't really advertise as much. We just invite each other's friends, and it became more like a volunteer-led community. So after that, we trying to also launch in The Hague. So it will be also kind of a way of also building your own community if you don't see that it's it exists yet.
So meaning after almost 10, 11 years, right now you are considering yourself as an entrepreneur, right?
I guess I was making, this type of different initiatives here and there, yeah. And not just, personally, but also I've been trying to, I have been an entrepreneur in a corporate setting as well.
So what's the difference between being entrepreneur within the companies or enterprises, and right now it seems you are trying to build your startup or business.
I think it's important that I've been actually an entrepreneur in different corporates before. I've been always quite passionate about and committed to driving health topics, and especially around health equity. What does it mean to have equal opportunity of awareness, knowledge, but also literacy around health? And that's something that I always worked on whichever community or corporates that I went to. So I initiated also launched a women's health event before in my company, but also World Cancer Day and health equity blog writing and storytelling, and how my previous pharmaceutical company also supports expanding the access of medicine. So it was a lot beyond of my immediate role there. But I really enjoyed it because in that sense, then I get to really learn about what other people do in the corporates, but also how it gave me a bigger picture of how the company works. And that all in all became an important resources and knowledge for me to also start my own company. Of course, it's a startup. It's a phase where I am now setting the foundation, learning as I go. Also, what's critical with setting that strong and stable foundation, but especially also in the care sector. I think something like cybersecurity, but also who are my immediate good stakeholders, and also where the ecosystem that I can learn about starting a venture. These are all important things where you can start building that muscles of course, confidence and also knowledge as you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to connect your current situation to different aspects. I see you have experience. I think 11 years ago, you moved to the Netherlands because you decided to join a master program at University of Amsterdam, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Meaning you started your journey as a student here in the Netherlands, and then you had experience of working as an employee for different companies. And finally, right now, you are also trying to act as an entrepreneur, building your entity, your company. And these are three main aspects. Usually, internationals, most of the internationals, have the same experience. I mean, they are moving to the Netherlands because they have a plan right now. More than I mean, many international students, and even in August and September, new international students coming to the Netherlands.
Mhm.
There are lots of cases that they are applying for startup visa and moving to the Netherlands because they have a plan to run their business in this ecosystem. And also,
Mm.
as you know, there are lots of highly skilled migrants moving to the Netherlands for working here. If you want to share two main critical, valuable insights that you have found during past 10, 11 years in different settings you worked, studied, or let's say, um, I don't know, did in any ways, what it could be. Something that is valuable to share with those, for example, international students in few weeks or few months, they are moving here, or for those newcomers.
I will recommend this: learn the language. I know moving to a new country is already quite a lot of work, right? And you need to settle yourself in all different sorts. But learning language, I think, is critical if you already want to try and give yourself an opportunity to go further than just a study here. The reason why I say that is because, first of all, you will learn a lot more about the Dutch culture and the way people think and maneuver themselves through also the way the language is used. The second thing is, of course, you open yourself not just the English speaking events, but also all sorts of a wide range of Dutch speaking events. And these are the events where also the connections are made and networks built, another invitation follows. So I think it's critical. The third is, I think it's just out of respect. To me, if you see yourself long term in place, but keep resisting to learning about language, is actually quite difficult. And because you want to learn the language not just to thrive here, but also to give yourself a full opportunity of making the most out of here. So I would definitely recommend. Language learning is hard because as an adult, it gets actually harder. Not because it's that you can't learn it, but because we probably do not want to feel like, oh, we feel we were treated as like a little baby or a teenager, and you will make mistakes, but have that default mindset. Okay, it's gonna be difficult, but I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna learn it because it's important to me or important for my future, or I want to make the most out of here. So I definitely recommend that, especially if you want to also grow a larger opportunities here after your study.
That was the first advice. What's the second one?
Keep learning. Keep learning of where you want to go. I do see that probably part of being also entrepreneur now, it's becoming a lot more clear that you have to constantly learn different things, and at times it can be overwhelming because I'm now learning something that I've never really been formally educated with, but that is part of entrepreneurship too. No one walks into entrepreneurship knowing everything end to end. So I think growing that and harnessing that inner curiosity is very important, and find the right ecosystem if you want to indeed start something of your own. Find the right ecosystem, find the right support group to see this through. So I think that's my definitely second advice. But not just entrepreneurship, even if you see yourself in a career corporate, already existing corporate and career growth in different pathways, still like your ecosystem is still important. You don't have to do everything alone, and you're not alone. So, but um, keep finding, yeah, your path.
there's difference between living in the Netherlands and experiencing as part of the Netherlands, let's say.
Mhm.
And maybe it's connected to what you are doing within the OW chair and what I'm busy with at Flux Forward. Because it seems in the beginning, people think that's okay. In the Netherlands, everyone is switching to English. That's why maybe I don't need to know a lot about the culture, the language, the context, everything like that. And in reality, also, I know many people, they are living in their bubbles and in their silos. But the point is, it seems being part of the Netherlands, it's not just about learning language. As you mentioned, it's about feeling I'm part of this society. I'm adding values to this society, and I'm connected deeply with this context. But at the
Mhm.
same time, for people who are moving to a new country or living in a new context, sometimes they feel, hey, what I'm doing here,
Mhm.
why I'm here. Maybe it's easier for me just to come back to my country and, why I have to cope with lots of struggles of being outlier
Mm.
in a different culture, in a different country. Have you ever experienced something like that and how you coped with that moment?
Well, thank you for this question. It's a beautiful question. And yes, multiple times. um, you're right. It isn't just about learning the language. It is about also harnessing your curiosity about one's histories, of the place's history, the culture, the community, then the how it's evolved. And I think the easiest, probably the way to start experimenting and experience that is through volunteering because there's a less pressure, but also more freedom for you to actually pick and choose. So it's a great way to leverage your time to also meet people, get to know different communities and why it was established in the first place, and start there. It's actually low threshold to also start. The worst case, what's going to happen, right? You didn't like the a couple times of volunteering here, then okay, then you learned something, and maybe next you can also find a different group to be part of. Volunteering also, just as a reminder to people, if you work in a big corporates, you can actually get your hours reimbursed too. So you can get a paid volunteering hours. So I want to just put it out there.
It's almost half an hour we are talking.
Mm.
And right now, I want just to reverse this conversation and I want to ask you if you think there is anything that I forgot to mention, or you think maybe it's important, but I missed it, what it could be.
I understand that as an international coming here, your experience with your environment can really break or make the bond with how you settle yourself or how you navigate yourself a couple months or years down the road. I think that first few months is extremely critical because that's when our perception about this culture, this place all starts to form. And it is actually a very vulnerable period too, we could say. And there's also pattern to it. From what I understood from my other international friends is that always, the novelty sets in. So the first few months is like rosy, everything's great. I mean, good, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride too. But once it starts to settle into the routine and also the challenges, the difficulties, and then now the language barrier, the stress comes and goes. And then the loneliness can also really set in. But the reason I want to actually share this is that then now that you know that that could happen, that means you can also prepare yourself a little bit more proactively. And that's why also finding the good international group in the beginning is actually quite important, and they can be a great support for you to start have that foundation and then start venture out bit by bit as you grow more confidence to navigate to different communities of the Netherlands. So that's something that I definitely want to share today.
We can consider two different type of people. Some of them are just pursuing opportunities. They are moving to a new country because maybe more salaries, making more monies, or the opportunities for learning, but they don't have any plan to be part of that society. And the second group is the people who are looking for kind of, let's say, new home country and being part of a new society. For example, for those people who are just opportunistic, not in a bad way, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not critical, for example, to learn a lot about the context. Still, it's really important to be curious and, learning and interacting with local people. But generally speaking, maybe it's not as critical as others for them. You know what I mean? But at the same time, uh, people have no idea about the future,
Yeah.
meaning we have no idea what future holds for us. Maybe some people just move to the Netherlands for 1 year master program, and then they can find themselves for many years living here and being part of this society. And also at the same time, maybe some people are moving to the Netherlands and they have a plan to make it their home country, but after a few months or few years, they will decide to leave this country.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, uh, living in a different country has lots of ambiguity, uncertainty, complexity.
Mm.
How you think we can cope with that kind of uncertainty and ambiguity in the best way while we are trying to learn new things, to be curious, to plan something, it's kind of paradoxical
Yeah.
situation. Uh, and most of the time, internationals, I've been talking with many of them in past few months. One of the main things that bothers them a lot is that uncertainty, knowing that I don't know about the next phase in some ways, specifically, as I told you before, for non-EU people.
Mm.
Do you have any idea about how to cope in a best way with that kind of situation?
I can relate well to that level of ambiguity as well. It's interesting because life is uncertain, right? Life is uncertain. So us always trying to have a concrete plans in place years down the road. Uh, we'll always look for ways to make sense of things when things are so vague and open-ended. But I think I actually started neuroscience back in the days during my school student time. And one of the things that always stood out to me is that our brain always looks for patterns, and we don't like ambiguity. So we'll always trying to make sense of something, um, and have the final answer to something or something secured, things like that. It's good because it keeps us safe or it keeps us feeling safe. But on the other hand, there's a interesting balance where you don't want that to be a sole the only pathway, therefore, because you think that that's the only, that that's the only way. It can actually trap you. So and then we lose that then momentum of also exploration and curiosity. So I think it's a matter of how safe do you feel of doing and balancing that out, being curious, exploring, keep learning, but also having that sense of a safety and foundation solid. Are you a type of person actually personality wise that you find that more exciting and adventurous for you, or are you someone that you need to have exact 3, 5, 10 years planned out because you don't see yourself as safe enough to have that open-ended um, question mark in the end? So I think it's really the personal preference, and what you would like to experience for yourself. But anyone, I believe, if you want to try to become a bit more adventurous and give yourself an opportunity to be okay with ambiguity, then you can learn to do that bit by bit. And that's what I said also with something like volunteering is a low threshold way of also meeting new different group of people in different communities, instead of suddenly committing yourself for another 6 months of a part-time job or a course, which can be very expensive. So start low threshold, what's available in your area. um, you may not like it immediately, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is whether to check for yourself whether you like experimenting that way.
That's a nice and beautiful place to land, I think. I mean, yeah, and thank you. Thank you, He, so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. What I'm taking from this conversation today is that care is not only about finding a GP or doctor or a formal service. It's also about language, community, uh, curiosity, as you mentioned, volunteering, which is really,
Mhm.
really, really important, and emotional anchors. I really like that concept.
Mhm.
And finding the right ecosystem around ourselves and experiencing kind of sense of belonging. But
Yeah.
maybe at the end, you want to share something as the last, very last word. Feel free to share it.
I would like to share my personal favorite quote. I think it will resonate with many. Is where your fear is, there your task is. Is by Carl Jung. And whenever we find ourselves in new situation, a new place, new community, new work, really anything that any transition in life presents itself with some level of fear, and that is a level of uncertainty and ambiguity. But how quickly you are willing to navigate that is actually makes a huge difference. So something that also internationals we probably put ourselves in a situation where we are sometimes forced to quickly adjust to that. And that's okay, because as long as you know and aware that you're not alone in that journey, and we trust and also respect that you will also soon find your way and bit by bit grow your sense of belonging here. I think that's most critical.
Fabulous. And thank you. Thank you for bringing your story and your work and your insights to Bennu. Uh, we are gonna publish this episode in next few weeks, hopefully, within our different channels. And I really appreciate what you are building within OW Chair, and I wish I have more chance to learn more from you and what you are busy with. And for those people who are listening to this episode, of course, uh, this is one of the episodes of our season 2. In season 1, we already published 40 episodes. All of them are available within our different channels on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, and they can see more context about each episode on blog.fluxforward.world, which is available right now. And I'm really interested to learn more from those people also by sharing their comments, their feedback via our channels, which is available on LinkedIn, Instagram, and or by our web email. I mean, hi at sign fluxforward.org. So thank you again, He, for today.
Okay, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you.